Oh, I saw it!
We are investigating the New Jersey drone.
SUV-sized drones?
All over New Jersey.
We are so compromised.
A giant, broken-looking craft floated silently over New Jersey's snowy mountains with no wings, no sound, and just a glowing blue tail. The witness, hidden behind rocks, was too scared to move, but brave enough to film. The UFO looked part tank, part wreckage, yet it never fell as it hovered. This isn't just another blurry UFO clip. What was it doing up there in freezing air? And why haven't officials said anything, even after the footage went viral? Join us as we give clarity to a massive flashing UFO filmed in New Jersey. New Jersey's skies exploded.
24.
As for numbers, the FBI says it's received more than 3,000 tips from the public about drone sightings going back to November 18th, all over New Jersey.
One after another, these drones appeared in the night sky.
The first calls started coming in on a cold November night. Residents across Morris County were pointing their phones at the sky, trying to capture something that shouldn't have been there. Strange lights hung in the darkness above their neighborhoods, not moving like planes or helicopters. These objects stayed perfectly still, then suddenly shifted into formations that made no sense. Within hours, similar reports flooded in from towns across northern New Jersey. Witnesses described the same thing over and over: silent, triangular shapes with bright lights arranged in precise patterns. Some hovered motionless for minutes at a time. Others moved in straight lines, then made impossible 90-degree turns without slowing down. The timing couldn't have been stranger. Just weeks earlier, vintage footage had surfaced showing what appeared to be drone-like objects being dropped from larger craft in the sky. That old video had sparked debates about whether this phenomenon was decades old, not something new. Now, as fresh sightings poured in from New Jersey, the similarities were impossible to ignore. These weren't random, scattered incidents. The objects moved with purpose, appearing in coordinated groups across multiple counties on the same nights. Local airports confirmed they weren't tracking any scheduled flights in those areas. Military bases nearby stayed silent when asked for explanations. By the end of November, the sightings had jumped state lines. Residents in eastern Pennsylvania reported identical triangular formations hovering over rural farmland. New York's Hudson Valley, already famous for UFO encounters from the 1980s, started seeing fresh activity. The craft appeared to follow some kind of pattern, moving systematically from south to north along the East Coast. What made these sightings different was their behavior. Most UFO reports involve single objects doing strange maneuvers. This was something else entirely. Multiple crafts working together, covering vast distances in what looked like a coordinated operation. They appeared at roughly the same time each night, usually between 8 and 11 p.m, when most people would be looking up from their evening routines. The objects seemed to prefer areas near critical infrastructure. Water treatment plants, power stations, and transportation hubs all reported unusual aerial activity during this period. Security cameras at these facilities captured blurry footage of lights moving in patterns that defied easy explanation. Local news stations started running segments about the mystery, but their coverage felt incomplete. Reporters would show a few seconds of shaky phone footage, interview confused witnesses, then move on to weather forecasts. The story felt bigger than what was making it to air. Weather conditions during these sightings were consistently clear and calm. No storms, no atmospheric disturbances that might explain unusual light patterns. The craft appeared regardless of wind speed or temperature, suggesting they weren't affected by normal flight conditions. Social media is filled with theories, but most fall into predictable categories: military testing, foreign surveillance, or elaborate hoaxes. None of these explanations address the scale and coordination involved. How could so many people across 3 states be seeing the same type of activity without any official acknowledgement. The sightings continued for weeks, following patterns that suggested intelligence behind the movements. Then came the incident that changed everything. When law enforcement captured something on video that nobody could dismiss or explain away. What they recorded would make the previous sightings look like a warm-up act. This turns casual curiosity into undeniable proof, or would it? 55 drones rise from the ocean. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Officer Martinez was conducting a routine patrol along the Jersey shore when his dashboard camera captured something that would change how everyone viewed the recent sightings. The timestamp read 9:47 p.m., November 28th, and the weather was crystal clear with minimal wind. What started as standard footage of an empty coastline suddenly transformed into something extraordinary. The camera, positioned to monitor traffic violations, inadvertently recorded the ocean beyond the roadway. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Just dark water stretching toward the horizon under a starlit sky. Then the water began to glow. Small points of light appeared just beneath the surface, barely visible at first. Within seconds, these lights grew brighter and started moving upward. One by one, objects broke through the waves and rose into the night sky. The police camera captured each craft as it emerged, water streaming off metallic surfaces that reflected the moonlight. The officer later reported counting at least 55 distinct objects during the event. Each one followed the same pattern, emerging from roughly the same area of the ocean, hovering briefly above the water, then moving inland in perfect formation. The entire sequence lasted just under 4 minutes, but those minutes contained enough evidence to shift the entire conversation. The footage spread across social media within days, generating millions of views and thousands of theories. But the most disturbing part wasn't what the video showed. It was what happened when people started asking questions about it. Why was official silence suddenly more important than public safety? Were they stalling for time? Government's masterclass in hiding the truth. 3 days after the ocean footage went viral, federal agencies finally responded. The timing wasn't coincidental. Social media had exploded with theories. Local news stations were demanding answers, and congressional offices were fielding calls from concerned constituents. Something had to be said, even if that something revealed absolutely nothing. The joint press conference took place on a Friday afternoon, the perfect time slot for news that agencies hope will disappear over the weekend. Representatives from the FBI, Homeland Security, and the Department of Defense stood behind a podium, displaying official seals, projecting authority while delivering confusion. The entire event lasted 18 minutes. 18 minutes to address weeks of unexplained aerial phenomena, multiple law enforcement encounters, and growing public concern. The officials took turns reading from prepared statements that seemed designed to waste time rather than provide information. Their message boiled down to 3 key points. Investigations were ongoing, no immediate threat had been identified, and the public should remain calm. No mention of the police footage. No acknowledgement of the ocean's emergence. No explanation for why 55 coordinated objects didn't qualify as a potential threat worth discussing. When reporters asked specific questions, the responses became even more evasive. Queries about the Coast Guard radio logs were deflected to maritime security protocols. Questions about radar data were redirected to ongoing operational security concerns. Every substantive inquiry hit a wall of bureaucratic language that revealed nothing while sounding official. The most telling moment came when a reporter asked about the technical capabilities displayed by the objects. The Homeland Security representative paused, consulted notes, then stated that preliminary analysis suggested no advanced technology beyond current civilian capabilities. This statement directly contradicted the evidence visible in multiple videos showing coordinated movement patterns. for consumer drones. Following the press conference, agencies released a single-page joint statement, and one page to address what had become the most significant unexplained aerial event in recent memory. The document repeated the same talking points from the briefing, adding only that federal resources were being allocated appropriately to monitor the situation. The phenomenon was spreading west, but why were the craft now targeting America's most secretive military installations? Wright-Patterson under siege. By early December, residents of Columbus and Hilliard, Ohio, were pointing their cameras skyward. The same coordinated formations that had puzzled New Jersey were now appearing over suburban neighborhoods hundreds of miles inland. Local social media groups are filled with shaky phone footage showing identical triangular patterns moving silently through winter skies. The timing couldn't have been more significant. These Ohio sightings centered around one of the most classified military installations in the United States, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. For decades, researchers and locals had whispered that Wright-Patterson held secrets that made Nevada's Area 51 look like a tourist attraction. Now, unknown craft were systematically circling the perimeter of this heavily guarded facility. Security cameras at businesses near the base captured unusual activity during overnight hours. Objects appeared to follow the fence line, maintaining precise distances from restricted areas while avoiding detection by standard radar systems. The craft moved in patterns that suggested mapping or surveillance, spending extra time near specific buildings known to House-sensitive research projects. Wright-Patterson's history made these intrusions particularly unsettling. The base had been central to government UFO investigations since the 1940s, housing Project Blue Book and storing materials from unexplained incidents across the country. Military personnel stationed there often spoke privately about encounters they couldn't officially discuss, contributing to the facility's reputation as America's real center for extraterrestrial research. Local witnesses described behavior that matched reports from the East Coast, but with disturbing additions. The Ohio craft appeared larger and more aggressive in their surveillance patterns. Some hovered directly above residential areas for extended periods, as if studying the population below. Others performed rapid acceleration maneuvers that defied conventional aircraft capabilities. An aviation expert with a military background had recently proposed a theory that connected these sightings to a classified emergency. According to his analysis, the coordinated drone activity might represent a desperate search operation for a missing nuclear asset. The theory suggested that specialized detection equipment mounted on these craft was scanning for radioactive signatures, explaining their methodical coverage patterns and focus on strategic locations. This nuclear search theory gained credibility when matched against the craft's behavior near Wright-Patterson. The base stored various experimental weapons and technologies that would require careful monitoring if compromised. A missing nuclear device in the wrong hands would justify the massive, coordinated response that witnesses were documenting across multiple states. The situation became more complex as civilians began launching their drones to investigate the mysterious activity. Airspace above Ohio's suburbs turned chaotic, with unknown craft, government drones, and civilian operators all operating simultaneously. This created a perfect storm of confusion that made separating genuine anomalies from explainable activity nearly impossible. Some observers suspected this chaos served a deliberate purpose. By allowing civilian drone activity to proliferate, authorities could dismiss genuine sightings as misidentified hobbyist aircraft. The resulting confusion provided perfect cover for whatever operation was taking place, whether that involved nuclear material recovery or something more exotic. Weather conditions during the Ohio sightings remained consistently clear, eliminating atmospheric explanations for the unusual activity. The craft appeared regardless of wind speed, temperature, or precipitation, suggesting advanced technology unaffected by normal flight limitations. Military personnel at Wright-Patterson maintained absolute silence about the incidents, despite multiple media requests for comment. This silence contrasted sharply with the base's usual willingness to address community concerns about routine operations. But the most compelling evidence was still hidden in plain sight, captured by a terrified witness who never expected to document proof of the impossible. The frozen mountain encounter. The most compelling footage emerged from an unexpected source. A single witness, positioned safely behind rocky terrain in the remote hills of northern New Jersey, managed to document something that defied every explanation offered by officials and experts alike. The location was perfect for capturing clear evidence, isolated, elevated, and far from the light pollution that plagued urban sightings. Snow covered the mountainous landscape, creating a stark contrast against the grey winter sky. The witness remained completely silent throughout the recording, never speaking or changing position, as if understanding that any sound might draw unwanted attention. What appeared in the footage challenged basic assumptions about aircraft design and physics. The object wasn't sleek or aerodynamic like conventional craft. Instead, it resembled damaged machinery, twisted metal surfaces that looked more like wreckage than any functional vehicle. Parts of the structure appeared torn or broken, giving it the appearance of something that had survived a catastrophic event. Yet this damaged craft hung motionless in the air with perfect stability. No visible propulsion system kept it aloft. No rotating parts or moving surfaces suggested how it maintained its position against winter winds. The object simply existed in space, defying gravity through means that remained completely invisible to the camera. The most striking feature was a steady blue light emanating from what appeared to be the rear section. This wasn't the typical flashing beacon found on normal aircraft. The glow pulsed gently, almost organically, with variations in intensity that seemed random rather than mechanical. Most puzzling was the complete absence of heat signatures or vapor trails that would normally accompany any energy source capable of producing such illumination. Weather conditions during the sighting were calm, just dry and cold with a quiet sky. Visibility was clear enough to see for miles, which made what happened next even harder to ignore. The object hovered low over a snowy ridge. It wasn't stationary like a helicopter holding position. It moved, but only slightly. Slow, steady drifting within a tight circle, like it was pacing in the air. Always returning to the same invisible center point, never rising, never falling, never veering off. It was as if something was anchoring it to the specific location, like a signal or target was holding it there. And despite the freezing temperatures and thin air, the craft showed no signs of struggling. No visible propulsion, no wobbling from wind, and no adjustment for pressure or turbulence. It just stayed. Watching, scanning, waiting. That kind of movement doesn't match anything we know. So the question is, what was it looking for? The witness chose their vantage point carefully, filming from behind natural rock formations that provided both concealment and stability for the camera. This positioning captured the full scale of the object against the mountainous backdrop, revealing its substantial size, far larger than any consumer drone or conventional aircraft operating in the area. Technical analysis of the footage revealed details that deepened the mystery. The object's surface appeared to absorb rather than reflect ambient light, making it difficult to discern exact dimensions or structural details. Only the blue glow provided clear reference points for estimating size and distance from the camera position. The complete silence surrounding the encounter was perhaps most unsettling. No engine noise, no electronic humming, no atmospheric disturbance indicated the presence of such a massive object. The witness's microphone captured only winter wind and distant traffic, as if the craft existed in a bubble of absolute quiet. Duration of the sighting extended well beyond typical aircraft encounters. The object remained visible for several minutes, providing ample opportunity to document its characteristics and behavior. This extended observation time eliminated explanations involving conventional aircraft passing through the area or atmospheric phenomena creating brief visual effects. No other witnesses came forward to corroborate the sighting, despite the remote location's proximity to hiking trails and residential areas. The lack of additional footage suggested either exceptional discretion by the original witness or circumstances that prevented others from observing the same phenomenon. The footage raised more questions than it answered, but the most disturbing possibility was that this encounter represented something far more significant than anyone was prepared to acknowledge. Are we witnessing the beginning of disclosure or the perfect cover-up? What happens when they stop hiding and start making contact? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.